And part of what we're going to do today, though, is talk about an old industry and transition. I want to make sure that part of what we're talking about is part of the Texas-Hungary Venture Bridge. One of our entrepreneurs happens to be here in Austin, a scale-up based out of Budapest, Hungary, that we'll hear all about. But the thing that I want to make sure that we point out is some of the interesting collaborations that are now happening between Texas, Hungary, and actually Mexico. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of Peter's talk. Part of who I've invited today is Peter Perecz. I'm actually going to always screw up his last name. You're supposed to enunciate the C and drop the Z. So make a long story short. Peter was part of the group, the 20 teams that I worked with on Thanksgiving week back in November. November 23rd is when we kicked that off. And make a long story short, very quickly, several of those companies are actually in the process of coming into the U.S. market. But in this case, it's kind of interesting. I learned a little bit about Hungarian capability. We already know about our worldwide network of things, and he's actually here in Austin this week to talk through, to work with investors as well as to talk to a number of OEM manufacturers in the Texas area about employing their technology. We're also going to be going to Mexico in the next week or two to share some of the technology there. And it's interesting to see how is it that advanced technology can take historical businesses and help them translate into the new world and make them more competitive, especially since there's such an abrupt opportunity disruption-wise. And so we're going to hear from him today. And so part of what I'm going to do is introduce you to the CEO of Harris Digital. This is Peter Perecz.
Hey Kevin, hi community. Thanks a lot for having me invited to this call as your hospitality around here as well and support so far.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Do we see the presentation already?
Right here.
Right here. So yeah, I'm Peter. I'm from Harris Digital. I'm the founder and the CEO of the company. Coming from manufacturing, and today I really don't want to really speak about what we do, but how really the new industrial revolution that we are living in may impact our life in general, and of course some bit more of that. But just start with a broader view. So not sure if you recognize, but nowadays we are really living in a days of revolution. That's a soft revolution, thanks for God, and you wouldn't imagine how things that are happening in manufacturing would have an impact on our everyday life. For understanding that, probably we can have a look on the history, what happened in the previous three. So the first one started back in the 18th century, where the steam engine has been developed and invented. And by that, all the manual work that has been in fashion so far were changed and started to scale. And the second one, probably we are more aware of that, was happened in the late 18th century, where the conveyors, the electricity, and the oil-based power was available. So by that, it really opened the door of mass manufacturing. Probably the first guy who will got into our mind is Mr. Ford, who introduced that and made cars and which opened doors for any mass production. So since that, we are mass producing. And that third one, I think this is even less known, happened 50 years back. And that was about powered by computers and informational technology. And that was the era where automation started to become popular. So it sounds just, and nowadays we have a lot of new technologies around us. I will speak more about it, which will impact our life similarly than the previous three. But what happened and what impact we have? How do I scroll down again? Like this? Yeah, no, it was too much. Can you help me out here? Ah, yes. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, a lot of changes and impact we have. So whatever is cooking in manufacturing, you would surprise how much impact it has in our lives. So let's just go back to the first one, which is almost 250 years ago, when people started to work with machines. Those are the times when changed the whole of the society. So after that, everything was agricultural, and people lived at the countryside. So the huge impact was that people started to move to cities. So thanks to the first industrial revolution, we are living in the cities, and the majority of the society is now living in cities. That was the main driver, and that was the time when the working class started to raise or be formed. The middle class didn't exist before, and that was a time, when the new aristocracy, not coming from the old royal society, but driven by economy and entrepreneurial successes, was born. And actually, these are the money which still exists and drive a lot of the economy still today. But there are some social relations as well as of the first one. So probably you wouldn't want to work in the mines and the factories those days. So terrible working conditions, which started to change a bit, but that was the heritage as well. The second one, where mass production started to drive even more urbanization. And that made transportation utilities, vehicles, available for masses. This is a time when we can start think about railways and automobiles. So that made people and goods moving. So everything has changed because of that. So those were the times where all the titans was born and the unions as a reflection. So this is the heritage of the second industrial revolution. But there was no social network at all. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid. And even kids were working in terrible conditions. So that's the back part of it. So that thankfully has changed. Looking 50 years back, when we started to speak about the third industrial revolution, this is what made, the change of the whole society. So goods were available for everyone. So our society started to be based upon consumption. So, and this is still, I believe, is very valid, but that was a huge change. And that was the time when computers were born and were started to be adopted, not only in the industry, but made available for everyone. That's the huge change on our life. People started to communicate with each other. And this, I believe, is really determining our life that we are living every day. But that time, we are talking about people-to-people communication, which will get importance when we speak about the fourth one. And I believe that was the era of the middle class. So people started to live better and started to consume, but as a negative impact, I believe we need to be mentioning here what we did with our environment. That needs to be changed, and hopefully new technologies and new way of thinking will help us changing that. And by that, we arrive to today, when a bunch of new technologies are available. Let's just take artificial intelligence. Everyone is speaking about it. We are talking about virtual reality, and communication is now changing from people to machine to machine. So I think we cannot imagine how impact we will have as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. I don't want to guess here. I open it for discussion or open it for you to think about it. What impact we need to foresee after these days we are living in.
And actually, let me make sure I put a word in. Once we finish up on the presentation, that is part of the conversation I want to make sure that we have as a community for the people that are in the core group. And then if you're on the if you're on the LinkedIn watching this as well, we'll be monitoring the chat to make sure that if you have questions to file back in or statements you'd like to make about it, make sure that you let us know as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Go right ahead.
Stop me anytime, or we can have the discussion at the end of it. But yeah, we got to the point where we need to discuss and define what is Industry 4, the fourth industrial revolution, actually. As opposed to the previous one, when you can just pick up, one technology like, the steam engines or the conveyors or the robots and electricity and computer. So there is not such one thing that could be picked up here. But we shouldn't forget that all the previous three were driven by particular technologies. The current one is also driven by technologies, but you cannot pick one. It's a set of technologies that are available for everyone at the same time. So that's a bit of a difference and a bit of the progress. But what could be common in all, I believe, if I have to pick up one that you will find, is data. I think that word is really, really important when we are talking about the actual revolution. And these are the technologies in detail, so probably some words how they are used in manufacturing. 3D printing, I think it's everywhere. It's become normal. So, and the advantage is that, when before that you have to invest a lot of into tooling before you wanted to get anything in your hand. Now you can do it very rapidly, and that's a huge stuff. 5G is going to be becoming normal very soon. Artificial intelligence, I believe, is nothing new. So everyone is speaking about it, but there are a lot of advantages it can involve into manufacturing. I will speak more about it because we are in that field as well. Augmented reality, that's something can be really widely used when we are talking about remote works nowadays, for training employees. Driving operations, you are being what to touch and stuff, or service from distance. That's a huge advantage of that technology. Automated vehicles, they are again the part of our civil life, but has an importance in the manufacturing itself. We shouldn't really thinking about Teslas running up and down, but we can think about internal in-house logistics, how the goods are moved within or between factories. That's cool stuff again. Blockchain and security, cyber security, it's a hot topic, not only at our homes, but when we are talking about industrial application as well. Cloud is everywhere. Cobots, that's an interesting one. So far, it was two separated things. Either robots were working on one operation, or people were working separately. Now they started to cooperate. People are started to work together with robots, and we call them cobots. That opens new opportunities. Drones, again, internal logistics, and yeah, that was just some examples. If you are interested to learn about anything of those, we can discuss it later. But these are the technologies which we can say are very typical or determining the ongoing revolution. And I just picked up some because so many are there that are really trending now. And this IoT, industrial IoT, artificial intelligence, which is happening under the hood. And I'm a bit selfish here because actually the ones that I marked with stars are the ones that we are also using at Heritage Digital. But these are really hot topics. And why are they good? Because they are giving answers to current problems. In this slide, you will see an analytics from IoT Analytics. That's really one of my favorite sources of information. These guys are publishing every quarter what CEOs are speaking about, what makes them worry, what keeps them awake during nights. And the first one is the disrupted supply chains. It stays there quarter by quarter. And I think this is determined by two main reasons. One is the lack of the chips, which is preventing us to have everything available that we used to have available. That causes a big headache over there. So supply chains are being interrupted by that. Factory stop for days or weeks, and that's a huge headache. They are also speaking about the lack of talents. They are really hard to find. And you can see here that Industry 4 is still, however we are speaking about Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution or smart manufacturing for years, this is still there, it's still huge and expected to go further. Because this is the one that is going to give answer to the big headaches. And that's a good thing, I guess. Now we are arriving to America, and the Biden administration put it on the flag. One motto is "Made in all of America by all of American workers." So bring manufacturing back, which I believe is a great opportunity and a great initiative. But there are some challenges, as we could see in the previous slides, especially if we bring everything back and we have to count with interrupted supply chains, and if it is still difficult to find talents and labor in general, then it's going to be difficult. About the labor, so according to some reports, there are 5 million jobs are expected to be missed in the US in the manufacturing in 10 years. And there is another story I just heard from one of the colleagues here. There is a small manufacturer running 20 machines, and he has only 3 people and cannot find more. That's a huge issue here in the States. So what is the answer? Probably it's again Industry 4, and not because it's so sexy to say that we have Industrial Revolution, but it will help us improving productivity tremendously. In this slide you can see if anyone goes for Industry 4 solutions, pick up from this what is available and go with the ones that is value to them. They can achieve tremendous improvement in productivity. So they can reduce the throughput time by 50-60%. So it means manufacturing will be moving faster with less stock, meaning more cash available for investing. And OE, or with other words, productivity will increase 45-60%. Scrap will be reduced. Unit cost will be reduced. So there are very tangible benefits that are coming with that. So I think by saying that, and if we want to have manufacturing back, we need to really go for Industry 4 in the States, because that is the right answer. And there are side effects that will be coming with that. So necessarily, if production is more efficient by Industry 4, and if you manufacturing is here, so you need to count with less transportation cost, that will help the country become more competitive. That's for certain. And as a natural effect, you will have shorter supply chains, which is cool. So you can have higher flexibility working together in these shorter supply chains. And by that, actually, manufacturing will be able to respond to new customer demands. So what everyone wants now is something unique and tailor-made, but in mass scale. For that, you need that. You need shorter supply chain and higher flexibility. That will come. And there is a cool effect as well that I would like to highlight here. If you have shorter supply chains and you are more efficient, meaning you are using less resources, we will have a huge positive impact on our environment, which I believe is really, really important effect. Right, but there are always buts, and there is a huge but here. Industry 4 is cool, as we learn, but in the USA, this is, for the moment, is rather adopted by bigger corporations. And the manufacturing is really run by small to mid-sized businesses. Almost 99% of all the manufacturers are small to mid-sized manufacturers. And only one of the 5 consider themselves as highly prepared for Industry 4. So we are not really very, very well prepared. And there are some reasons for that, which probably is worth to be understood. As said, current solutions are fancy and cool, but rather available and developed for the needs and budgets and circumstances of bigger corporations. The small to mid-sized ones are complaining that these solutions are really rarely adoptable to the other machinery set they are running every day. That's a huge problem. And the ones available are too difficult for them. They do not have the expertise needed for learning, adopting that. And they have no time for that. They are too slow for that. They do not have the resources for that. And in many times, current solutions are too expensive. And this is where Heritage Digital comes to picture. So we've developed a solution that will help these small to mid-sized manufacturers to understand their problems, where they are having that problems, how much are the problems, and how they can improve every day. And for that, actually, we are using these fancy technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, and by that, we could create a system that is incredibly fast to implement. It's so simple, there is no expertise needed, and it's so affordable that even the smallest manufacturers can come with it. And that can be adopted in numerous industries, so it's kind of a segment agnostic. I do not want to go more into details, but actually this is what we are cooking here at Heritage Digital. And here to help US companies to become more productive. So that was pretty much the presentation, and before I'm closing that, some words about the market, which I believe is huge. So the problem is huge itself, so only the unexpected machine downtimes that are one of the biggest efficiency losses are costing $50 billion to the industry every year. If you want to compare it, this is exactly how much the whole of the music industry made in 2018. So the problem is huge, and the market is really, really huge in one hand. So we are talking about more than 200,000 small to mid-sized manufacturers who wants to go digital but cannot. Industry market is already worth 77 billion. And I think what I would really highlight here is the industrial artificial intelligence market is going to be boosting a lot. So there is an expectation for a CAGR of 35% every year. So I think we are all here in a very, very exciting and markets here. Yeah, that was the presentation. I rushed through. Sorry if it was too fast. I sometimes am, but if you have any question, I'm really, really happy to discuss it here.
And part of what we'll do is we'll actually interact right now and take some questions. I'll start with questions myself. So right now you're here in Austin,
right?
For what this total of, or you're actually in the U.S. for what, total of 3 or 4 weeks or something like that?
Yeah, even more. I think it's 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah, landed in San Francisco, enjoying more here in Austin. Actually, I am spending altogether 4 weeks here. I guess. Yeah, 4 weeks here. One past. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and so part of what I want to make sure I point out is since several of y'all. Or several of the people that are hearing this are going to be, are getting involved in TechRanch's network, as an example. And so Peter and I met as part of the Texas-Hungary Venture Bridge that I mentioned earlier, back in November. And then he quickly took advantage of the relationship. TechRanch acts as a talent agent. We discover talent, develop talent, connect talent to opportunity, and help it scale. And so a lot of our activities are around that right now, both on investment as well as customer traction. And in this space, in this more general space about how is it that we can help manufacturing with the big disruptions that are happening in manufacturing, supply chain issues, the electrification of mobility. What does that mean? People are switching to electric cars, and it's pretty clear that switch is not going to go back. And so a lot of industry, like as an example in northern Mexico, is focused on internal combustion engines. And part of our work in the relationship between Texas and Mexico is help those Mexican manufacturers become more competitive because it's really natural. Now, part of what you said, you were saying something this last week about how Hungary is to Germany as Mexico is to Texas, or Mexico is to the United States, I should say. We live in the United States. I always forget that. I'm a Texan, but forgive me. Talk a little bit more about what you see and the similarities but then the insight that you feel you can bring to the industry here.
Absolutely. Yeah, like it's like both of our economies are depending on other countries. So traditionally, our economy is connected to Germany. I think all the export imports, the majority is usually happening with them. I assume it's pretty much the same in Mexico with Texas and USA if we take it more broad, and so lots of not only the economical connections and export imports, but it's like the German manufacturing was outsourced to Hungary, and the US manufacturing was outsourced to Mexico. And we inherited a lot. We inherited a lot of the culture as we manufacture, and I think that's the same here. And there are a lot of similarities. And also inherited a lot of the old machinery. So in many cases, that old machinery were just picked in Germany, in the US, and placed in Hungary or in Mexico. So a lot of commonalities, and I expect by that there will be a lot of common sense and a lot of common understanding. Speaking to Mexican companies, and yeah, probably these.
Well, it's also interesting because he's got several PhDs on his team that have that insight. So, having these old machines with this really advanced knowledge and these new IoT sensors, that's part of what we're exploring about how to drive impact, how to drive both, as you were saying, in the Industrial 4.0 revolution. What do you suspect is going to come out of that as well? I mean, I know you're a manufacturing guy, but like you were pointing to the social impact across the way, like where Industrial 1.0 conditions were really crappy, and then consumerism was born out of that third industrial revolution, where people actually could go to Walmart and they could get whatever they needed for fairly inexpensive. What do you expect is going to happen with Industry 4.0 on the social side? Like, because part of what we're listening for as a community, right, is how are we positively impacting the world, right? What do you think is going to happen? Say a little bit more about that as well.
Absolutely. In the short term, I think I just mentioned how technology may impact manufacturing itself. So it will be even more. Automation is still ongoing. And by that, so everything will be more efficient. Less people will be needed in the short term, and the ones who will be needed will be the ones with higher value add. So there will be less people needed with higher value add. That brings in two relations. So probably it will have an impact on the education and the educational needs to have these highly educated people available and keep motivated to join manufacturing. But the motivation may be there because if we think about these technologies, normally these are considered to be something sexy, no? And by that, manufacturing can be attractive again for young engineers, and I think that's a cool stuff. Another relation is that if we look more ahead into the future, and we imagine a fully automated manufacturing, where everything is automated, machines are speaking to machines, and they interact to each other, they optimize themselves, they plan themselves, then probably there will be no such much need for workforce. And I give the opportunity back for you. What do you imagine? What impact it will have on the society? So no need for workforce.
Yeah, no need for a workforce. I mean, it's quite an interesting and challenging thing to even imagine with today's reality, right? And that actually, as we're talking about it, I wrote down one of the things I'd like to actually see is I think we need to start talking about that vision about what happens when work doesn't need to happen anymore, and how do we actually shift things so it's not just a handful of I mean, the biggest concern I would have in even hearing that is we don't want to enter into a new version of serfdom, where you have like you have the feudal kings that actually, and then the rest of us are just a bunch of serfs, right? No, we want to make sure that that goes the right way, where it's like, okay, yeah, everything's automated, but everything works, and everyone has a high standard of living, right? We don't just become the new serfs, not Smurfs, serfs. So, I've got the chat open, and also I'll take interaction from anyone that would like to ask a question from the audience. If there's like we're a community. I always like to get feedback directly from you guys and request back from y'all. What do you think? Anyone have any questions that they'd like to pose to Peter? Let's see. I see. For whatever reason, my view over here on LinkedIn is not perfect. I don't know why my iPad is not doing that really well. So I'll keep on asking a few other questions, but I'm wondering if anyone there, like Arda or Kim or Janet, I know that y'all all usually have questions to pose, especially from a social side, right? The implications of where we're going. We can actually take more manufacturing kind of questions as well. I mean, this type of technology, it's interesting to think about where what's implied by different pieces and stuff like that. Anyone would like to do that? You guys are quiet today. Janet, looks like you're coming off of mute. Please.
Oh, well, one thing caught my attention is, yes, we really need to bring some balance to manufacturing and technology in the United States, but we don't want to shut out international opportunities. And it's weird how we seem to swing back and forth without looking for balance the whole time. So that's something I would really love to see happening more, is cooperation. And I mean, come on, look at what's going on the planet. We've got to cooperate and integrate with each other and think of the big picture and share resources. So I'd love to see more of that happening. Most of my experience with technology is, or the growth of technology actually was, and I'm retired from teaching now, but just freshly. So amazing to see what's been going on at University of Texas and Austin Community College in terms of technology. The COVID thing is actually giving it a good kick in the pants in terms of growth. And there's still room for more. I mean, so many students didn't have what they needed to fully participate in the classes I had to teach online. And I was very frustrated with that, even though the school did they had iPads for students. I think they may have had limited laptops. They were really kind of caught off guard and didn't have the technology support for students, much less faculty. So anyway, I'd like to see that get bigger and better.
Yeah, no, I agree with multiple points with what you're saying. It's interesting that in the U.S. we're so focused on competition strong, but the truth is that collaboration is really what's made the country strong.
No
and
kidding.
A lot of people tend to forget that, right? And as we come up with new shiny objects, that is new technology, yes, we can use them to compete with each other, but it ends up limits what really is possible. And I think that when we start looking at what I don't know how many billions of people there are now. I don't know what the official count is, but it's coming up on 7 billion, right? The issue at hand is there's all these underserved markets, but if all we're doing is bashing at each other on these like small things, if that's what we go do with the emergence of these technologies, it's just going to be a waste. So, any statements you'd like to make about that?
No, fully agree. I think the future really should be about cooperation, and you know what? I think when you are saying in cooperation, it should be in cooperation. So, when you compare Europe and USA, that's my first impressions here. I think you guys are better here in cooperation.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
yeah, and this is something we need to be learning back home, and that should be that should be the future over there as well.
Well, and that's part of the value of these different viewpoints, right? You know, when we talk about the activities that are going to happen in the next 2 weeks, right? I said Texas, but it also includes Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma, Mexico, and Hungarian insight. You know, when you want to solve really complex problems, the more heterogeneous of your solution set, the more chance you have to really taking things on. Alper actually just said something in the chat. Let me actually toss this to you. Did you get to read the chat?
Yeah.
Read through the chat. You can go ahead and read it out, and then I'll have you pose the question. Or I'll say it. Thank you for stopping at the point of machines are going to hand out taxes. I did not hear about technology he has built. We have done some industrial recipe analytics for gas and electricity consumption on industrial boilers. I'd love to hear specific technology that he is building if there's any potential partnership. What's the difference of your sensors versus LoRaWAN? Let me just hand it over to you, because that's a kind of, there's multiple points there.
Yeah,
see what you say.
Thanks a lot for your question. And yeah, I didn't mention too much about the technology itself. So what we do is we have manufacturers in many industries, and especially small to mid-sized ones, to become more productive. That's the main goal. Everything behind it is just technology, but this is driven by that vision. And for that, the basic understanding is, if you want to improve, you need to measure. You need to know where you are, and for that you need to have data. And this is what actually we are providing. The technology itself probably is easiest to explain if we take an analogy from our everyday life, which is like your Apple Watch, yeah, that you use for many purposes, but let's just concentrate on what it was really developed for, to control and improve your health. And this is the same what we are aiming for manufacturing machines. We want to improve their productivity and efficiency, following pretty much using the same technologies and following pretty much the same principles. So our technology is really the same in a way that is using IoT sensors, like your smartwatch. And in the same way, as it's as easy to adopt as to put your smartwatch on your wrist. So it's really fast. You just take a sensor size like a mouse, and you place it on your machine. And we are catching the resonances or the movements of the machine. And based on that, we can tell you the basics that you need to improve your health in your health application, or improve productivity in manufacturing. And again, these are very, very basic. So as long as you are not an athlete, you do not need every last detail. You need a good understanding of your health or of your machinery. Mm-hmm. And in our case, this is like, unexpected machine downtimes and speed losses. So from any machine, even a 30 years old press machine, by our sensors, we can tell the basics, real time and historical as well. What's wrong with that? Is it available? Is it producing? If it's producing at the right speed or not? Do I need to interact? What are the problems I have? How do I improve? So this is what we do. I'm not sure if it was clear enough, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like sounds like that there is. So at the high level, that kind of explains the how you guys are building it, and then I think the other question that Alper is asking is, if there's a way of possibly partnering together and stuff like that. And
absolutely.
What Alper, I can actually say that already in the network, and I'm going to actually ask you a question about your involvement in the network, because you've only been involved 2 months now, so I'll queue up that a little bit. We're already introducing part of what I've said a lot of times in these meetings is reminding our entrepreneurs that are doing startups and scale-ups The thing that's interesting to see is if you want to take on the whales and the sharks of the world, and you have a school of piranhas, you know, you coordinate the piranhas, that is your company, his company, other companies, and you can do that. So part of what our work, TechRanch's work has been, is bringing the piranhas together in a school. What this has looked like is right now interesting conversations that have come out of the network between Texas, Mexico, actually several different company in Querétaro, a company in Juarez, another company in another part of Mexico that hasn't been disclosed yet. That we can actually do all that type of work. That's part of the power of interacting. And let's see, Alper is saying we should have a meeting along with Arda. Arda is in the audience as well. I need to understand the technology, and y'all should just take that and run with that.
Yeah.
So let me switch gears. We're coming to almost to the end of our time together.
Oh wow.
For the entrepreneurs that get to hear about this. So you and I met on November 23rd, that first Tuesday of the program. What's happened thus far? Tell us a little bit about that so other people can kind of get a sense about how to get involved and exercise the network and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot happened, Kevin, and that was really great meeting you with. And I'm really happy that I took the opportunity to get to know with you and start to work together with you. Yeah, a lot happened. I traveled to US and we started to shape our cooperation with Kevin, and it opens a lot of opportunity for us. So I think Kevin and TechRanch has a huge and really valuable network, which is now open for us. I really started to speak to very nice guys, very supportive guys who has access to market, and the corporations, even business cooperation, started to work, and I hope they will deliver results in a very short amount of time. The same happened in another track, finding our investors. I think there is a lot ahead of us, but I'm very hopeful. Seeing the network, the power of your network, and the enthusiasm of yourself, I have great expectations and hopes here. And the third layer, I believe, is a lot of learning that is happening. Every day I'm learning a lot working together with you guys. So really cool to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, well, and that's part of what happens is like we learn. You know, it used to be that you'd think about learning from a standpoint of going and getting into a class and sitting in front of a book and stuff like that. One of the things I wrote about years ago is there's knowledge stores, and then there's knowledge flows. Part of the power of the network that we're in is there's no way to keep up with what's emerging. Like I couldn't keep up with what's happening in manufacturing, but I can connect to the expertise that has that and work back and forth and move really fast, right? Knowledge flows are more strategically valuable to you as an entrepreneur and to your company than knowledge stores. You know, historical knowledge that, you know, nothing against historical knowledge. There's value in getting that type of knowledge and having access to it. But really the issue at hand is making it a point to really digging in. Absolutely. And yeah, from that standpoint. Well, what I'm going to do is I think that actually we'll go back to the slide earlier that has your contact information. So if anyone wants to get a hold, a lot of times people contact me and say, hey, introduce me to that entrepreneur that you had on the program. And I'll be like, well, you know, I'll try to do my best. But this is Peter's information, both his US number as well as his Hungarian number. If you actually have, especially over the next couple of weeks, whether it's in Texas, Mexico, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, we're going to be doing some touring that I'm going to be along with for the ride on part of that with him. If there is anything that you need or that you have ideas for Peter, make it a point to reaching out to him. You can always copy me on things, but a lot of times people will send stuff to me and I don't see it in time, and then, you know, the entrepreneur goes back to home country and all that sort of stuff. No, reach out to Peter with a copy to me. That'd be great. or just reach out to Peter, and we're going to do our best to support him and his company over the next few weeks to really dig into Texas. We're going to be in Houston on February 2nd. We'll be in Juarez, Mexico, I think February 8th. We're trying to figure out that. And I think we're going to hit some locations in Oklahoma City just based on what's happening to to take advantage of the time that he's here and really ramp that up. But let us know if you have any questions, if there's an opportunity for partnership as well. Back to the question that came in through chat from Alper, feel free to contact him directly and we'll go from there. There's also an opportunity across other, this technology has, one of the things that I always know as an innovator is technologies have implications across other industries as well. There's lots of different applications. If you see one of those cross-product type of opportunities, say instead of in manufacturing, maybe in healthcare or something like that, you want to talk about that too. Let's bring up those conversations as well, because I think some of the most powerful things that have happened in the community is these cross-product opportunities where it's like one industry recognizes, hey, wait, we can use that piece of technology for something over here. We've got some ideas brewing for them as well, for Harris Digital as well. And there's a couple other companies in the network that are related to this space from the Tech Ranch network. We're going to be bringing those guys together as well and see how they could collaborate to take it to a different level. So just on wrapping things up for today, part of what I want to do is make sure that if you're not on our email list or not on our community or not on other like all the different pieces, the mentor list, the country manager list, whatever is appropriate for you, the insider URL for people to get involved really quick, to make sure that you can get plugged in really quick, is this URL. And please take advantage of it. Part of what we're here to do is to connect the community together. And again, I won't be, over the next few weeks, I'm not really going to be promoting the network level as much as the community. I really want to get more people involved in the community for free so they can actually see how they can take advantage of the power of the network and the community as part of that. So please join us. And with that, we'll start for the wrap today. Thank you, Peter, for coming in and letting me put you on the spot in front of our LinkedIn group and also our core crowd here. Thank you. Any final words you'd like to say?
I mean, thank you so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed the conversation and working with TechCrunch. Thanks so much, Kevin. Yeah,
likewise. It's going to be great. And we are going to be informally doing a happy hour here in Austin. We have a few Hungarians that have said, hey, wait, they weren't necessarily involved in the Texas-Hungary Venture Bridge, but are interested. If you're interested in just joining us informally for a happy hour, more than likely it's going to be happening on one of these Fridays. Very likely that it'll happen, that we'll have something even tomorrow, that is this Friday of this week in the afternoons here in Austin, kind of in the Burnett 183 area. Text me or email me, let me know if you'd like to join us. I'm going to bring together some of the other Hungarians that have said, hey, wait, you're paying attention to my country, hey, let me connect in. And so we'll have a kind of an informal get-together like that. So please join us. With that, it's always an honor to work with entrepreneurs driven by vision and values for a better world. Let's go change the world for the better together. Thank you all. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great one. Cheers. Bye-bye.